Reports coming out on Wednesday that the NBA is getting closer and closer to a return, and when it does, it will likely be in Orlando, Florida at Disney. I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Mike Petraglia and Jimmy Toscano. What do you guys feel about the possibility of the NBA coming back and all the teams meeting up down in Disney World?
Well, it sounds like this is what they've been working towards for, since they had to put the season on hold. I've been a non-believer that it would happen. I've been on the side of, I just see that there's too many outside forces at play here, and there's too many what ifs, and there's just too many unknowns. So I'm a little surprised to hear it. I'm certainly for it returning. If they can figure out a way to do it safely. I do think the logistics are crazy. It sounds like if it were to start, it's not going to be towards the end of July. So the biggest thing to me is that it sounds like next season is going to start later. It sounds like maybe the NBA is positioning themselves to permanently start later. I know that that's been something that people have talked about in the past, but maybe they're saying we're going to start our next season on Christmas. Maybe that's the start of the new season, and it's going to take you into the summer every year now, because we already know that they're expecting a second wave. And I mean, I'm just going by what I hear, but if they're expecting a second wave to hit again in the fall, then why would they plan on starting the NBA season in the fall anyways?
Well, I think, the one thing going in the NBA's favor in all of this is they have experience with the Summer League, right? And they know that games can have, intrinsic value to the players and coaches albeit there are some fans in those Summer League games, but in venues that are far different. What's that, Jimmy?
It gets busy it gets packed at those arenas.
It does, but it's not the same level as a typical NBA game. And you have kind of all of these teams in one location. And I think their feeling is, look, if these games are played in empty gyms, nobody's going to care anyway. We're just going to put them on TV so we can get a product out there, so we can make some advertising revenue back. That's all of this is about. I think all three of us can agree that this is not about keeping the integrity of crowning an NBA champion 2020. That's not what this is about. This is about getting a product out there so that they can bill advertisers, get some revenue, recoup some of their losses, and move on with some revenue heading into the 2020-2021 season. And so that, like with the NFL is facing the same thing, the NHL is really facing a lot of the same thing, the MLB also, these teams and these leagues need money in the coffers heading into the next season. So that's one of the big reasons, to support what the NBA is trying to do here. The other thing is we're really going to find out, putting the feet to the fire of players like Chris Paul, who are on record saying we're dying to play again. We really want to get back on the court and just play the game. And, I think, if the NBA gives some type of assurances to players that testing will be in place, things will be safe, and that teams will be quarantined and not for too long, in a tournament type of situation, which this sounds like it would be, I think the players are more readily to sign off on it than, let's say, a baseball proposal where you're talking 3 or 4 months by yourself.
Yeah, let's talk about what it would look like to actually return to playing, because right now a lot of NBA facilities are open or are soon to be opening up. Hopefully they're targeting June 1 as all of the NBA practice facilities being able to be opened. And if you are planning on shipping all these teams down to Orlando towards the end of July, that gives over a month of teams to be able to get their players back into shape, get them practicing together, and to kind of ramp things back up before you actually start playing. But when the teams get down to Orlando, do you expect a mini regular season before the playoffs, or do you think they're going to jump right into an expanded type of playoff format?
It's so hard to say. I mean, there's so many steps they have to take in order to even get to playing. I mean, nobody's together right now, so everyone's got to travel to their workout facility, get together, practice, probably quarantine before that even happens, right? If they're all traveling, then they've got to travel to, whether it's Disney World or whether it's Las Vegas. Maybe they have to quarantine again at that point. I don't know. I'm certainly in no position to say what they should or need to do. But I'm interested to see in more details that comes out about this, because if they're going to start playing in late July, how much time do they have to have a regular season? Is it even worth it when 85% of the teams, based on the amount of regular seasons you have, might not even need to play a regular season game. They're already in the playoffs. So what's the point? And if you're in dead last, is it really worth your, worth the travel, worth the health risk, worth the quarantine to go play a regular season for 10 games and then go home again? I mean, I get it. At the end of the day, these guys all want to make money. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe money talks and they're willing to play however many games it is to get them to next season.
Well, that's all it is about, guys, is the money. And that's why I think some type of extended tournament, maybe even a kind of a March Madness bracket type of situation where you have, I know, Jimmy, you like that idea?
Who said that?
Where you have mini tournaments, best 2 out of 3 or something like that. And you move and you have some type of round robin leading into March Madness where you have championship week in the NCAA tournament before the NCAA tournament, right? And there's a big buildup in that week before March Madness, and then the actual 68 team field gets going. That is something I think players could buy into, because you're not talking about, again, multiple months. You're talking about, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 5 to 6 weeks, depending on how far your team advances. And, that is all you're looking at. You are not talking about a situation where you're going to have, you're going to pick up the regular season where you left off and then go into the playoffs. I don't see a situation where that is realistic. And frankly, again, this is for everybody to watch basketball again and just kind of say, oh, that's what it's like watching these guys compete. This is not about, we've got to get back there and crown an NBA champion.
Trex, sorry, you're speaking my language. Pull the tapes. I was on this back in whenever the heck this first thing started. I'm on board with that. You also, marketing is important in this situation. You can't market it as, if you're gonna have these guys come back and play that type of tournament, you got to market it as such. It's the COVID Cup or whatever you want to call it. But it's not going to be your NBA champion. People aren't think of it that the COVID Cup. People aren't going to consider you NBA champions if you come back and play a 3-game tournament style. But I like it because what it also does, it's slowly, once you're eliminated, you're out of the hotel. It's slowly bringing it up to the final 2 teams, and maybe it's a safer way to do it too.
Well, for all of our Celtics and NBA coverage, check it out on our website at clnsmedia.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Celtics All Access.